Turning now to a wrap of your top stories of the day.
A good Tuesday morning. CMPD is warning all folks who go to South End bars and restaurants on this July 1st to pay attention to your cell phones. They say they've seen a 106% increase in cell phone thefts over this same period last year. They're saying the best thing you can do is make sure you have tracking devices on your phone, but at the very least, it's so important, they say, to keep track and always pay attention to where your phone is.
All right, want to show you a couple of things I'm watching on the area roadways. Remember, West Sugar Creek, we've been watching it now, all in the green, so making some improvements there. And then I-77 northbound is starting to become a bit slower, typical for this time of the day. We don't have any accidents. It's just slowing people down as they're heading out the door. Chris?
All right, just make sure to be weather alert a little bit later on today, because from 5 to 10 you do have a chance for some flash flooding. You also have that frequent lightning that we've seen pretty much each and every day, and then also a chance for some stronger winds. Today is a higher storm threat compared to what we've had recently. Our 7-day forecast, look at that low, or at least for our coolest high of 88. We've been looking forward to that for like a week, and then it's 92 to 95 through the holiday weekend.
88 never sounded so good.
Yeah, 92, 95 is hot, but it's July 4th, so
yeah,
you expect it. You accept it in that instance. A reminder, the news does not end here. We're live all day with breaking news, weather, and traffic.
That's on WCNC Plus. We're streaming there now. Join us.
Streaming right now live at 7 a.m. here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And then Lisa Washington, a live look at Lake Norman on this first day of July. Majestic Storm is going to join us in just a few moments with details on how the morning commute is going. First, though, we're going to check in with meteorologist Chris Mulcahy, who is staying on top of the weather for this holiday week.
All right, let's do it. Today is your best chance for storms. Scattered storms, some strong a little bit later on in the day, so stay weather alert. The 4th of July, though, staying dry, though. That's going to be a nice little trend. The tropics, though, Florida system could potentially turn into Chantal, not really affecting us here locally, so that's what we're talking about. Our afternoon highs today back to around 90 degrees. Really, our highs have been anywhere from 93 to 96 over the last 4 or 5 days, but now we're going to see a little dip in the temperatures, even visiting the upper 80s for a high. Ooh, by tomorrow. And those winds out of the southwest gusting up to about 20 miles per hour outside of any thunderstorm. So we have a low risk. So this is a very low risk for severe storms, but it's still there. And then you're also going to have a more elevated threat for flash flooding. We've had a lot of heavy rain recently. Some pockets or some areas have seen a lot more than others. So at least most of our area, at least under a low to now a medium threshold for the greater Charlotte area and areas to the north and northwest. So the wind of opportunity for some of these storms is 5 to 10 o'clock. Here's the deal, though. Before then, you still have a chance for storms, but this is where I think storms are going to be most likely. Heavy rain, lightning, and some stronger winds going to be the possibility. This is mainly for the Charlotte area. Areas a little bit further west will be impacted a little bit earlier, as early as 2 o'clock for, I think, for a stronger thunderstorm. We're already starting to see signs of training rain. So that's one storm system after another. Could rain for a couple of hours up in the high country. So that could dump up to 1 to 2 inches of rain. Plus, we're seeing some elevated totals as much as 3 inches, where we're dealing some heavier rain up in the high country. And then once you get to about 5 o'clock, notice how those clusters of storms getting a little bit closer to Charlotte. At that point, it's impacting our evening commute, seeing it become a little bit more widespread, a little bit closer to 6 o'clock. So that's where we're calling it really late afternoon, heading into the evening for your best opportunity for these. At this point, if you have one storm system after another, or rains at that intensity for a couple of hours, yeah, there's a chance for some flash flood warnings later on this afternoon as well, heading into the evening. Once you get to about 8 to 10 o'clock, we still have some lingering storms. I realistically think you could hear distant rumbles of thunder past midnight, heading into the early parts of the morning. It's just, I think that our severe weather window is really closing around 10 o'clock, seeing some also on and off rain heading into tomorrow before we have yet again another chance for thunderstorms really after 2 o'clock tomorrow. That's when that cold front is moving through, interacts with the peak heating of the day, even in the mid to the upper 80s, still enough for an unstable environment. And then once the last storm passes later on heading into your Wednesday evening, I think we're drying out for a couple of days because that cold front, we just need it to pass. Once it gets down towards the south, fade out that low, it's going to drift its way down towards the south, and it's actually going to stall out over Florida. That's where we have an interesting adjustment for our forecast and what happens for the tropics. I'll get to that in 1 second. Our rainfall chances, once that front clears, we're down to a goose egg. We haven't had this much of a dry stretch in quite some time. Very dry conditions. This might come up a little bit by the back end of the weekend. As of right now, very low rain chance. And then we have a humid environment really mid to late afternoon heading through the weekend. So it's really going to be interesting setup and a nice little break from the on and off showers and storms. However, it's still going to be hot and humid. Here's that chance for tropical development by the day 6 and 7 time frame. So the long range model showing a chance that we could have some development right here crossing Florida. But as of right now, it looks like it should stay down towards the south, even if it becomes tropical storm Chantal. That's our next best chance for some sort of development. For our 7-day forecast, we are going with our alert for the back end of the forecast. That is going to allow just a chance for some of those severe thunderstorms and also some flash flooding. And then once we get that front to clear, look at that, 92, 92, 93 for Saturday. So it will be a hot one for the Charlotte FC game, but at least you're staying dry. And then we have the mid-90s taking back over for July 6th and 7th heading into next week. So there it is, a typical week of July. Welcome to July, everybody. Now let's head over to our first July morning commute with Majestic. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. It is 7:04 right now. It's a quiet start to the day. You can see I-77 here coming in from York County, giving you several different perspectives of what's going on right now. You can see a little bit more traffic as people are heading towards the uptown area. Nothing too out of the ordinary. A few things I want to let you know about, though. 2 very close accidents that are currently ongoing. They're happening right here at Freedom Drive. The first one right here on Elmwood Circle. And what we're seeing is still a lot of green, so I'm not too concerned about it right now. And then this one here is on Freedom Drive at Toddville Road. In addition to that, as we head to the south now, continuing to follow this ongoing accident, seems like it's more of a neighborhood location just east of Lake Wiley. And then I-77 just to the west of it, Nations Ford Road and Tyvola Road. There's some lights that are no longer working, so make sure you're just taking it nice and easy. Otherwise, I-77 between 485, then the uptown area, we start to see those ongoing stop and go congested spots, and that's what we're seeing right now. You can see I-77 near Tyvola. It's not looking too bad right here, but some of my cameras are showing that people are kind of just moving slowly as they're making their way towards the uptown locations. We'll have another check on those roads coming up here in a bit. Lisa.
Majestic things approaching 7:06 now, and a warning this morning for those who go out in South End. Thieves are targeting cell phones inside bars and restaurants, and it's happening more this year than it did last year.
WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane now live with what police want you to know before you're headed out in South End anytime soon. Richard.
Yeah, good morning to you, Ben. Good morning, Lisa. Good Tuesday morning, Happy first day of July, everyone. And a warning today from police. When you head out, especially here in South End lately, you need to make sure that if you have your phone with you, you're paying close attention to it. That's because the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department has issued a new warning after seeing a surge in cell phone thefts targeting residents and visitors right here to the South End. Thieves are targeting shoppers and diners at popular bars, restaurants, and outdoor patios, which are among those most at risk during those peak hours. Police say that these incidents often occur swiftly. People are snatching phones from people's pockets or purses, or just grabbing them out of their hands. It all happens within a blink of an eye. Authorities urge everyone to stay vigilant in public. They say keep your devices zipped away and set up using tracking devices like Find My iPhone or Find My Device, which helps you best. But the best advice is also to pay attention, because once crooks get their hands on your phones, it's really hard to try to get it back.
One person will take your phone and hand it off to another person who's gone in moments. Your phone will track to an apartment complex or a large parking lot. It's going to be very difficult for us to find out where it is. We work closely with all of our bars and restaurant owners. So we're just seeking for anything that they can see, their bouncers or their security, to keep us in the loop if they identify any people, especially if they capture on surveillance footage, so that we can make cases on these individuals.
Looking sharp.
Thank you. And they say that also, if you do hear or your phone is stolen, please alert police as soon as possible, so maybe they can start looking at those things like surveillance video and trying to talk to witnesses to try to get you back with your valuable piece of property, your phone. Guys.
Yeah, especially when your guard is down, you're not even thinking about something like this.
Right, you're having a good time.
You're having a good time. Richard, do we have any like firm numbers? Like how many are we talking about here?
Yeah, we're talking about 37 cases this year. Now, that is up more than 106% when compared to the same time period for the first 6 months of last year. That's why police are putting out this alert. It is a surge. Now, the numbers may not seem like a lot, but 37 is twice as many as they've had last year at this time. So there is, what they say, an uptick, and that's something they want to really pay attention to, and they want folks to help them by alerting them if anytime they see anything suspicious or a phone is snatched, they need to know about it.
All right, Richard Devane reporting live for us. Thanks, Richard. We've been talking about that 1-cent sales tax proposed for transit in the Charlotte area. Excitement over the area's transit future could be overshadowed as the Charlotte City Council faces 2 internal investigations. City leaders held a closed-door meeting yesterday. Now, while we know it's tied to an investigation by the city attorney's office, we don't know what it's actually about. We do know last month, City Attorney Anthony Fox called for investigations after someone leaked the details of the city's $300,000 payout to CMPD Chief Johnny Jennings, as well as allegations of corruption from within the council.
One is a concern about the violation of the open meetings law provision that allows for individuals to go into closed session. And I will be reaching out to Councilmember Wallington because the allegations of illegality and corrupt are very important, and we have to take those seriously.
A city spokesperson tells us they aren't sure if the information from yesterday's meeting will ever be made public.
7:10 right now. A live look inside the U.S. Senate this morning, where they pulled an all-nighter, and you can see still there on the Senate floor trying to negotiate. Most Republican senators appear intent on passing President Trump's big, beautiful bill by July 4th, just a few days from now. But as NBC's Alice Barr explains, Democrats are doing everything they can to stall that final vote.
On Capitol Hill overnight, the marathon before the sprint as Republicans push to pass President Trump's signature spending and tax cuts bill.
Make sure people's taxes don't go up tomorrow, the next day, forever.
Senators locked in a vote-a-rama, introducing unlimited amendments before a final vote.
We have before us a bill that gives tax breaks to the top 1% that will be paid in cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, and more.
Proposed changes repeatedly shot down, including one from Republican Susan Collins, to increase taxes on the ultra-wealthy in order to boost funding for rural hospitals.
When these facilities close their doors, the people they serve are often left behind without access to health care.
Democrats say Republicans are creating the danger to rural health care through Medicaid cuts and not going far enough to fix it.
It is a Band-Aid on an amputation. It provides just a tiny fraction of the nearly $1 trillion in cuts.
More than 11 million Americans are expected to lose their health care. Republicans argue the overhaul will help keep Medicaid running long term.
We are fiscally making Medicaid more sound.
Also touting the bill's extended tax cuts and billions for defense, deportations, and the border. Spending the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates will increase the deficit by more than $3 trillion. President Trump's one-time advisor Elon Musk resuming his online attacks, saying Republicans who campaigned on cutting spending and backed this bill, quote, will lose their primary next year if it is the last thing I do on this earth. House Speaker Mike Johnson repeatedly urged Senate Republicans not to make too many adjustments to the bill because the House would need to pass the Senate version without changes in order to meet President Trump's deadline to get it to his desk by the end of the week. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
President Donald Trump's daughter-in-law now weighing a Senate bid here in North Carolina. A source telling NBC News that Laura Trump is looking to run for the seat left vacant by Republican Senator Thom Tillis. He announced over the weekend that he would not seek re-election after President Trump slammed him for not supporting the big, beautiful bill. Laura Trump, born in Wilmington, and is the former RNC co-chair.
7:12 now. A live look right now in New York City, where day 2 of jury deliberations will get underway in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. But after just one day of deliberations, reporter Chloe Malas explains why there's already a problem with the jury.
Only about an hour after the case of Sean Diddy Combs was turned over to the jury, already a potential wild card in the deliberation room. The jury delivering a note to the judge saying one juror is not following instructions. He's a 51-year-old scientist with a PhD.
It was unclear whether or not there was a concern about following the legal instructions or the other instructions about how to approach the case.
Is it too late to replace a juror?
It's not. The judge can, but it would be a big deal once deliberations start.
The case is complex and sprawling. Combs charged with 5 federal counts, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
In this courthouse, 8 men and 4 women are sifting through 7 weeks of testimony from 34 witnesses as media from all over the world await a verdict.
As jurors began deliberating in the courtroom, Combs' family joined hands and prayed. Prosecutors allege Combs ran a criminal enterprise, wielding his power to have employees carry out illegal activity on his behalf. They also argued that he used violence, drugs, and threats of blackmail to coerce former girlfriends Cassie Ventura and another referred to only as Jane to have sex with male escorts while he watched. In contrast, the defense not calling any witnesses, resting their case in 30 minutes. Combs declined to take the stand. But in closing arguments, his lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said all sexual encounters were consensual, saying Combs had a swingers lifestyle. Agnifilo also arguing that this video of Combs beating Ventura at a Los Angeles hotel in 2016 is evidence of domestic violence, not sex trafficking, going so far as to call their relationship a great modern love story.
Tom Combs' demeanor really seemed to shift throughout the day. At one point, he showed the cover of 2 books, one being The Power of Positive Thinking, the other, The Happiness Advantage. But when another jury note came in about transportation of drugs, his mood seemed to be a bit more somber.
That was Chloe Malas reporting. Also trending this morning, a major twist in the murders of 4 Idaho college students. Just weeks before a trial was set to begin, the suspected killer is now changing his plea to guilty. According to reports, the news was delivered to the families of the victims in a letter. Brian Koberger is accused of stabbing 4 students at a rental home near campus back in 2022. His murder trial was set to begin in a little over a month. Now it is up to a judge to actually accept the plea deal. If he does, Koberger will face sentencing next. The deal means that he will no longer face the death penalty.
More money now available for help to help people in South Carolina recovering from Hurricane Helene. South Carolina's new state budget now in effect, and it includes $40 million to help homeowners with disaster relief. That money targets low-income residents making less than 30% of the median income, as well as seniors and families with young kids. Officials say the main thing is letting people know that they have to apply in order to get that help.
You might know somebody that was impacted by the hurricane that didn't apply to FEMA for assistance, is in that low to moderate income community. You know, they might be old and elderly. They may not trust the government. Have them apply. The worst we could do is say no. But if they're low to moderate income and they're elderly and maybe disabled, it is very likely they're exactly the person we're looking for.
Federal government also sending $150 million to the state's hardest hit counties. At least 80% of that will go to 6 upstate counties. The remaining 20% will be spent on 9 counties that also had extensive damage.
Turning now to the weather, and take a look at this. Overnight, you may have gotten some rain and seen lightning. Well, check out this video from our Dallas camera as the lightning fills the sky. Chris says this was a powerful strike. And Chris, you were explaining this is like 1 in 10 strikes are positive or something. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so just like a battery, there's a positive charge and there's negative charged lightning strikes. And the most common one is negative, and that usually is the one that goes cloud to cloud. You'll see those kind of branches across the sky. But whenever you have a single bolt like this, that is a positive lightning strike. And the thing with these is they last 10 times longer than a traditional lightning strike. So I want you to watch. They're 10 times stronger, they last 10 times longer, and they're also usually 10 times louder. So whenever you have that time that all of a sudden you see a flash of light and then immediately the big boom, the ones that almost shake the house, well, that is actually a positive lightning strike. And if we could go back to that video one more time, Chris Campbell, our director, I want to point something out. I want to show you how long that this bolt lasts. So you see the initial bolt, look at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, of course, this is all slowed down, but you're seeing multiple other flashes that are happening within this. So you can see how powerful this is. And the reason why they're stronger is actually because it's coming from the top of the cloud. These are also the ones that sometimes can be called bolts from the blue because they're so high up that they can actually go miles, up to 10 to 20 plus away from the storm. Now, typically they're straight down in this fashion, but whenever you see that one single bolt, you know that's one of the big ones. And a coincidence, 9 out of every 10 people actually live from a lightning strike. Well, not usually from those. So 10% are positive and 10% of people actually die whenever struck by lightning. Of course, the ones that do survive, there's always a long-lasting effect. But we're not going to be a statistic today, right? Because we're actually going to try to avoid that lightning. Here's a look at one of our new products. This is called Lightning Intensity Tracker. So by the time you get to about 4 o'clock, that's where we're starting to see a moderate range for that lightning intensity. I think we're seeing more numerous storms at this point. So notice that 4 to about 6, that's where we're seeing a pretty active zone. So that's the ones where we're really seeing a lot of flashes, multiple lightning bolts overlaid on some of the storms that we're tracking on our radar. And then once you get to about 7 to 8 o'clock, I think that we're starting to dial things back a little bit, but we still have a chance for some lightning through the overnight. But if I were to say the most active lightning zone, it's pretty much from about 4 to 8 o'clock across the area in general. And then also heading into tomorrow, anytime you have a thunderstorm, you're going to have a possibility for this, a low to a moderate threat also for tomorrow as we have more storms that move through the area. So today's impacts, the number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is going to be lightning, and number 2 is going to be a chance for flash flooding, and number 3 is going to be a chance for damaging winds, because we have a low end or a marginal risk for a chance for some wind damage, but then we also now have a medium threat for some flash flooding. We've had a decent amount of rain over the last few days that have actually allowed for a nice priming of the soil. So some areas have received more rain than others. If you get training rain. That's one storm after another. That's where we could have 1 to 2+ inches of rain and a chance for flash flood warning. So just keep that in mind. Today weather alert a little bit later on. Once this front clears, that's going to allow for a passing of some storms tomorrow afternoon, but then right back after that we have 92 to 95 heading into Monday, so pretty much 91 to 95 Thursday through next Thursday. As for our lows, this is what you can expect pretty much for the entirety of the month, ranging from 71 to about 73, so the lower 70s, and a nice dip in our precipitation chances. We usually are looking at a 20 to a 30% chance for rain each and every day, but we're heading into a nice dry pattern with a high pressure system, which also should prevent us from receiving any tropical weather that's lurking down to the south. I'll have more on that coming up over the next 30 minutes, but first let's check in with Majestic for your morning commute.
All right, good morning, everyone. If you are getting ready to head out the door and start your day, whether you're heading off to work or maybe you're running some errands early this morning, here's a live look outside I-77 near Tyvola. You can see traffic is flowing just fine, not seeing anything too concerning at this point. I-77 out there in South Carolina, Gold Hill Road. You can see also nicely moving conditions right now. If you are heading out, there are a couple of things that I want to let you know about, though, as we switch it over to my live traffic maps. You can see we have two crashes that are very close to each other. They're both on Freedom Drive. The first one is right here on Elmwood Circle. You can still see mainly green, so again, continuing to watch it, but not too concerned about it at this point. And then our second one on Freedom Drive is at Toddville Road. All right, as we head south of Charlotte right here, we have our first stalled vehicle of the morning. It's on Ray Road and Pineville Matthews Road, so just be careful if you do have to travel right around that. Otherwise, we are also watching this on Nations Ford Road in Tyvola. We have some traffic lights that are not working, so that's slowing people down just a little bit. Take it easy, stay safe as you're heading out. I-77 inbound, you can see that red that's starting to pop up, just indicating that more people are definitely hitting the area roadways, but I don't see any accident with that right now. Our drive times this morning, here we go, 23 minutes if you're coming in from Matthews, 26 if you're coming in from Belmont.
7:22 right now. A lot of folks talking about this dramatic rescue we're about to show you. A father rescuing a 5-year-old daughter after she fell off a Disney cruise ship. George Solis has the details on the heart-stopping rescue as passengers watch the whole thing.
This dramatic video shows rescue boats racing towards a man and child desperately treading water in the middle of the ocean.
Can you see him? Yeah, look.
After passengers say the child fell overboard from the Disney Dream cruise ship and the man jumped in to save her.
You could see all the staff running to the port side. They got their life jackets and rings, and everybody was looking in the water.
The cruise ship making a U-turn, according to stunned passengers who watched from aboard.
It was horrific.
Applause and cheers erupting when crew members hoisted the pair to safety and brought them back to the ship.
Everyone cheered. It was a good moment.
It happened Sunday as the ship was sailing from the Bahamas back to Fort Lauderdale.
Passengers say the fall occurred somewhere along the floor deck, just below the yellow boats you see here. Passengers say they also heard loudspeaker warnings of Mr. Bob, emergency code for man overboard.
It's unclear how the child ended up in the water.
It was so scary. It was like, how did she fall?
In a statement to NBC News, Disney Cruise Line confirming the rescue of two of their guests, saying, "We commend our crew members for the exceptional skills and prompt actions which ensured the safe return of both guests within minutes."
The response was just amazing. Amazing.
More than 30 million people go on cruises every year. During a 10-year period, 212 people went overboard from cruise ships worldwide. Just 48 were rescued. By law, cruise ships must have rails that are 42 inches or higher. The child and rescuer's conditions are unknown, but those on board calling it nothing short of a miracle.
Such a sigh of relief. I mean, it's a parent's biggest nightmare.
Think about treading water for 20 minutes with a, child.
Yeah. Even by yourself, that's a lot.
That's a lot goodness gracious.
Glad they're both okay.
Very lucky.
All right, check this out. WNBA superstar Caitlin Clark's new version of a popular Nike shoe sold out. Her version of the Kobe Bryant sneaker sold out in just minutes after its release yesterday. The shoe incorporates splashy versions of blue, red, and gold, the colors of her team, the Indiana Fever.
All right, 7:24 right now. Live pictures over uptown where you can see that blanket of clouds over the top of the skyline there. We're back with more headlines, weather, and traffic coming your way right here on WCNC Plus.
90 degrees yet again, but that's actually cooler than the last several days. 80 degrees by 9 and then 87 by about noon. And then we're leveling out in the upper 80s to around 90 degrees. Then after that, here comes the storms, Dootin'. Whereas we're working our way into the evening, I think it's going to be our best chance for that. We have a real widespread environment really after about 5 to 7 o'clock across the greater Charlotte area. But realistically, anything after 2, we're going to have storms in the area. I just think Charlotte sees a little bit closer to the evening commute. We'll have some lingering showers and storms through the overnight, jogging into your Wednesday morning with one more round of storms possible on Wednesday afternoon. After that, we're drying out for your Thursday. For the 4th of July, looking good. Sunshine for the 4th. And it's also going to be another hot one, but at least we're rain free. Won't really see those pop-up rain chances pop up until a little bit later on next week. But first, let's get to our morning commute with Majestic to see what's going on.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. MAP is starting to get quite active this morning. Want to take you right here on Freedom Drive, where we do have 2 ongoing wrecks. The first one right here on Elmwood Circle. You can still see mainly a lot of green, so not too concerned about it, but we have another one on Freedom Drive and Toddville Road. In addition to that, we're continuing to follow this. It's a stalled vehicle on Ray Road, so be mindful of that. I-77 is really starting to back up. You can see a live look there at Wilkinson. People are just heading into the uptown area.
Thanks for joining us live on WCNC Plus at 7:30. I'm Lisa Washington.
And I'm Ben Thompson. New law is now in effect across the Carolinas now that it's July 1st. They impact everything from what you can buy at the gas station to safety in our schools.
WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards is live this morning with a closer look at what's changing and what it means for you. Destiny, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, several laws going into effect in North Carolina today, including ones that crack down on vape products as well as human trafficking. And then South Carolina has a law going into effect today that would make schools safer for students living with epilepsy. Now, starting with North Carolina, House Bill 900 is now law, and it bans the sale of vape products that haven't been approved by the FDA. Retailers must check a state directory to ensure their products are certified or risk fines and even losing their business license. Another new law targets human trafficking in the lodging industry. Hotels, motels, and short-term rentals will now be required to train staff on how to recognize and report the warning signs. Back in January, Lenore Brown with the State Council for Women and Youth Involvement spoke about the many ways trafficking can happen and why greater awareness matters.
That individual may have children and they're with their partner, and their partner is their perpetrator. Their partner is their exploiter. It's someone that is seeking shelter. It's someone that came to this nation trying to have a better opportunity.
And switching over to South Carolina, the Seizure Safe Schools Act is now in place. The law requires every school district in the state to create a seizure training program for staff. And those lessons are required to cover both epilepsy education and seizure first aid. And the person or persons that are teaching this, they must be qualified and certified as well. I'll send it back to you guys live here from Charlotte.
All right, so Justin, let's talk more about these digital licenses, because we've talked about that, and I believe it's up to DMV, which we know is already have the backlog with the Real ID. Do we know where that stands in North Carolina? Can you give us a refresher on what's changing with these digital licenses?
Yeah, the mobile IDs in North Carolina, another big law going into effect. And it's really that they are now legally recognized in North Carolina. As for rolling out those digital IDs and issuing them, that is still to come from the DMV itself. They have to come up with the specific rules and make sure that it meets national standards. There are a lot of other, there are several other states, I believe as of yesterday, 14 states and Puerto Rico all issue digital IDs and recognize digital IDs. So North Carolina will be joining the ranks. But I have been checking and there isn't any information yet about rolling those out. But when they are rolled out, they will be recognized at the TSA by law enforcement. Anything that requires you to verify your age, it'll be just like a physical ID, but it does not replace a physical ID. You must still get a physical ID. And that's also important at the airport too. While you can use that digital ID as an optional alternative option to use your ID, you still should have, according to the TSA, a physical ID on you when you fly, just as a backup verification.
I mean, it's certainly an added convenience to be able to just have it on your phone, use it, your boarding pass if you're at the airport. Another task, though, for DMV. That's something else. All right, Destiny, thank you so much.
All right, 7:33 right now on WCNC Plus. Let's turn it back over to Chris Mulcahy. And Chris, possible storms this afternoon.
Yeah, storms that could be slow moving at times. You're also going to be looking at that flood potential. So we really prime the soils for a little bit. So we do have a more elevated threat for some flooding. And then there's also the outside chance for a severe thunderstorm warning. But I actually think that the lightning and the heavy rain is going to be ahead of our wind threat a little bit later on. Still not discounting that it couldn't happen. 75 degrees right around Charlotte, Downs, US 74 through Monroe. 75 there, over to Wadesboro. 75 over in Sharon. Good morning, Morganton. You are 74 right around Burke County. And our temperatures will be a little bit, quote, here, I'll do the air quotes, cooler today. 90 degrees, so hovering in the upper 80s most of the afternoon. So a nice little downgrade from 93 degrees. Start off with sunshine, picking up more clouds throughout the day. 88 still feeling like 96, so I think we still could have a peak heat index around 97, some up to 98. But then we really are turning weather alert a little bit later on in the afternoon. I'm opening it up really around 5 o'clock, I think specifically, because we have that medium threshold for the flash flooding, and then you're also going to have a chance for those stronger winds. But I want to show you some of the futurecast rainfall totals heading into tomorrow morning. Look at some of these, jumping up to 3 inches, about 1 to 2 inches in some spots. It's very isolated. That's kind of the nature of the beast with some of these weather alert time frames, is that some might just have storms, a little bit of light rain, while others are dealing with hours of heavy rain, and that could lead to some flooding and some drainage issues. So just stay weather alert to complete the afternoon. The big deal here is, though, it first starts around 2 o'clock up in the mountains. So that main window of opportunity I'm talking about for Charlotte, that's late afternoon. I think we see our first signs of a stronger thunderstorm for the foothills in the mountains as early as 2 o'clock. 2 to 4, you can see them where they're pushing, very slow moving. That's where I think we have that flood threat, especially right in here for the foothills. So yours opens up a little bit earlier, and then it starts to push its way towards the I-77 corridor between about 4 and 6 o'clock. At that point, we'll have some heavier pulses of rain. Once they start to cluster together, as you're seeing right here, that's going to be your better chance maybe for some gustier winds. And then once you get to about 8 to 9 to 10 o'clock, we'll have just some lingering showers and storms. I think our severe weather window is closed at that point. The flood threat is starting to wane at that point. And then we're also looking at one more last hurrah of more thunder and lightning and more heavy rain for your Wednesday afternoon. This is actually the physical cold front that's pushing through. Once that front passes, boy, oh boy, love to see those zeros. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, looking at a 0 chance for some rain. I think on Monday you might be able to pop up a storm or two, so I might might bring that back up to 20%. Tomorrow, though, also looking like the bottom. 88 degrees. Look at that nice little change. A little bit cooler to the southeast because the better storm impacts there. So just weather alert for the back part of the day. After that, we are storm free, looking good, just nice and hot for the 4th of July and 4th of July weekend. But hey, we expect that this time of year, right, Majestic?
Exactly. It wouldn't be a 4th of July without that heat and humidity. Thankfully, no rain, though. All right, let's get a look at the area roadways, though, as you're heading out the door for your Tuesday morning. My map is quite busy out there. Want to show you this, a new accident that just popped up. It's on the Berkshire Boulevard freeway in Caldwell, so make sure you're just mindful of that. It's a crash. It's a minor one. Cars are still able to go through it, but I'll keep a close eye on that just in case anything does change. And then in addition to that, we have 2 wrecks right now on Freedom Drive. The first one is right here on Freedom Drive in Elmwood Circle. The other one just off to the right-hand side of it is at Toddville Road. Noticing mainly green, though, so that's meaning that we're not seeing significant impacts with both of those ongoing wrecks. Another one here is a stalled vehicle on Ray Road and Pineville Matthews Road. Still mainly green, so that's good news there. One area where it is starting to get a bit more jam-packed is I-77. If you're heading inbound, this is nothing out of the ordinary. More people are awake and heading towards the uptown area. We'll have another check on those roads coming up in just a few minutes, but Lisa, this is what I'm looking at for now.
All right, Majestic, that sounds good. 7:38 now, and the holiday weekend is just a few days away. This year, South Carolina agencies are teaming up to make sure everyone has a fun and safe 4th of July. The State Department of Natural Resources and the Highway Patrol are partnering to step up enforcement over the weekend. As a result, you will see more officers on the roads and out on the water.
We encourage folks to have a good time. We just want you to have a good time responsibly. You know, designated driver, use a rideshare service. If you know you're going to be on that water and you're going to be consuming alcohol, we would really like for you to designate a driver to and from, whether you're operating on the waterways or on our roadways.
Officials say it is everyone's responsibility to make sure that we all stay safe this weekend. The same goes for North Carolina. This year's Operation Firecracker Booze It and Lose It campaign is now in effect. Authorities will use public outreach and increased patrols to keep impaired drivers off the roads for the holiday. That campaign runs until Sunday.
The Justice Department just announced what it calls the largest healthcare fraud takedown in U.S. history. Now more than 300 defendants charged with some $14 billion in fraud. WCNC Charlotte's Kaylin Hagwood breaks down the impact on taxpayers right here in the Carolinas.
Federal and state prosecutors worked across party lines to uncover not one but 2 separate fraud schemes that they say are impacting people across the Carolinas. 9 people are now facing charges, accused of defrauding North and South Carolina's Medicaid programs of millions.
Republican and Democrat, we're all here with one goal, and that is to eradicate healthcare fraud.
The larger case, dubbed Operation Border War, involves Donald Saunders of Charlotte and 7 co-conspirators who allegedly stole more than $21 million from South Carolina's Medicaid program. South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson says they targeted the state's most vulnerable patients.
They would start billing for services that these minor, severely disabled children never received.
Investigators say the suspects created fake companies near the state border, then filed fraudulent claims using stolen patient information. In a separate North Carolina case, Crystal Jackson of Charlotte allegedly stole nearly $2 million by billing Medicaid for services to patients who Attorney General Jeff Jackson says were dead or in jail.
She held herself out as a licensed provider of health care. She was not. She provided services to folks who were incarcerated or deceased, or at least claimed to.
These cases are part of a national crackdown that charged 324 defendants with more than $14 billion in health care fraud. Here in the Carolinas, prosecutors say they won't tolerate these types of crimes.
If you continue defrauding the Medicaid system, you are going down.
Well, the investigation isn't over. The attorneys general say they're investigating several other potential cases and asking anyone with information on fraudulent behavior to give them a call. Reporting here in Charlotte, Kaylin Hagwood, WCNC Charlotte.
7:41 right now here on WCNC Plus. And a program that saves North Carolina thousands of dollars in Medicaid services every year is being shut down. The Healthy Opportunities Pilot Program helps Medicaid patients with non-medical things like home repairs and food deliveries. However, North Carolina lawmakers didn't include any funding for the program in their initial budgets. The program saves the state about $1,000 per participant every single year. As for now, a mini budget passed by the Senate will keep it running through part of the year only.
North Carolina Governor Josh Stein laying out a plan to get more people into good-paying jobs. The governor met with his workforce council yesterday to talk about boosting career opportunities statewide. The goal is to help millions of North Carolinians earn advanced certificates or credentials that make them more attractive to employers and open the door to higher pay.
There's just so many pathways to success, and there's no single pathway that works for everybody, so we want everyone to be able to make their own way.
The council will continue meeting throughout the year and plans to release a new report this December. Of course, we brought you that story live first right here on WCNC Plus. Our live impact news stream is the best place for you to find in-depth conversations and track live announcements in real time. As you know, WCNC Plus, of course, is free to download on all streaming devices.
Also happening today, North Carolina Governor Josh Stein expected to sign the PAVE Act into law. It's a major next step for the future of transit here in Mecklenburg County. The law puts a 1-cent sales tax on the ballot this November. That money would then be used to pay for future road and transit projects. But the plans have been getting some pushback, especially from folks in the town of Matthews, after a plan for a light rail there was scrapped.
Every town in the county is getting what they want except for Matthews.
We don't want the whole pie, we want a piece of the pie. And some of our colleagues are getting, pie a la mode with, whipped cream and a cherry, and we're asked to be satisfied with the crumbs.
The governor expected to sign that bill into law at 9 this morning, so about an hour and 15 minutes away. It'll be up to county lawmakers, commissioners, to actually draft the language and put it on the November ballot.
We have new information this morning after a WCNC Charlotte investigation into Union County schools. In response to our findings, a national advocacy group tells us that Union County Public Schools is discriminating against kids with a rare genetic disorder.
It comes as Union County is called into question for limiting who can give a potentially life-saving shot to students in a crisis. WCNC Charlotte's Nate Morabito found at least 2 other districts in North Carolina are making sure enough staff are trained so they can always save a child. And as a result of Nate's reporting, Union County now reaching out to those districts to learn more.
Parents with Lincoln County schools in another district near Greensboro tell me they can't believe Union County is putting vulnerable kids in a potential life-threatening position.
They're about to fight.
In the real world, when you get knocked down, it's critical.
1, 2, 3.
You get up again.
He's out.
But Gavin Tenner's family wrestles every day with the reality.
He was my firstborn, so it's like...
This 7-year-old can't always bounce back on his own.
It's the heaviest weight in the world.
Instead, he occasionally needs a tag team partner. Thankfully, his Randolph County school has stepped into the ring as a safety net.
Kindergarten teacher, all the assistants, the first grade teacher.
His mom, Natasha, says several others,
the PE teacher, the guidance counselor, the nurse,
are trained to give him this necessary shot in the rare instance he goes into adrenal crisis.
It's so relieving to know that he's taken care of.
But she now knows not every family is this lucky.
The school being unwilling to just give a child the basic care it's unreal to me.
The medication itself is this white powder.
2 hours away in Union County, parents don't have that kind of support at the district level. Is he in danger?
Yes.
As WCNC Charlotte recently reported, Union County Public Schools won't let anyone other than a school nurse give this potentially life-saving shot, which means on routine days when nurses are at different schools, there's no one authorized to help.
That's exactly what we're worried about.
A worst-case scenario.
He would die. Period.
Parents are fighting to prevent.
We have to ensure that no patient is lost because they're not doing the right thing.
Dina Matos is the executive director of the CARES Foundation. The national advocacy group educates the public about congenital adrenal hyperplasia.
This should not be happening.
Matos is pushing schools to let unlicensed staff take on the almost no-risk responsibility of giving these necessary injections, telling us those that don't are unfairly singling out a vulnerable population.
It's dangerous and they are discriminating.
As WCNC Charlotte previously reported, Union County Public Schools incorrectly told parents state law prevents unlicensed staff from giving this kind of shot in a school setting. However, Union County added, while the district does not know of other school systems in North Carolina that allow this, if made aware, UCPS is willing to review their procedures. Along with Randolph County, Lincoln County Schools currently has 4 students with medical orders for this shot. A spokesperson told us the district has authorized school nurses as well as select trained staff members at the students' respective schools to administer these injections if needed. In response to WCNC Charlotte's discovery, Union County reached out to Lincoln County Schools and Randolph County Schools to inquire about policies and procedures for delegating this shot. A spokesperson told us as UCPS staff is committed to providing a safe and healthy learning environment for students, the district will continue to consult with other North Carolina school districts and evaluate its procedures. Back in Randolph County, with no pushback whatsoever.
I'm very, very grateful for Gavin's school.
Natasha Tenner says Gavin's school district has willingly taken on the responsibility.
It means a lot.
In her eyes, the ultimate champion for his safety. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
Well, good morning, everybody. Here's what's going on for the long range. We have a front that's going to push through over the next couple of days, really moves through tomorrow morning, and that's going to allow for some storms. One last hurrah tomorrow afternoon, but then it's going to filter in some drier air and a high pressure system. So we're all excited about the drier forecast. Doesn't mean it's going to be cooler, just hotter. We are technically cooler for one day, but as this pushes its way down towards the south, that's going to filter in some relatively dry air. So instead of being super muggy, it's just going to be regular humid. So that's a nice little change, and that's pretty much the best that you get for the month of July. Welcome to July, by the way. Hopefully everyone had a spectacular June. Mine was lovely. We had a decent start to the day, but then it's going to be an increase in the mugginess, I think, especially for the middle of the afternoon. Highs getting around 90 degrees. Slightest chance that we have an isolated storm around the greater Charlotte area, closer to 2. And then in the mountains, we have signs of storms developing, and we could have what's called training rain. I think our flash flood threat is a little bit higher than actually our severe weather threat for today. Not saying you won't have a severe thunderstorm warning and some isolated wind damage, just the way things are setting up, because you see actually storms like this sitting over some areas for a couple of hours. That means easily up to 2 inches plus, and not everyone will have that type of profile. Things kind of spread out a little bit more scattered by the mid to late afternoon, but if these start to glom together as you're seeing here, that could lead to some gustier winds as well. Sometimes they strengthen when they do that, called clusters of storms. And then a little bit closer to 10 o'clock, we're starting to erode a lot of this activity, and then you'll still see some lingering storms on and off through the latter part of the evening heading into tomorrow morning. So there it is. Better chance also for storms by the mid to late afternoon, and then by the evening we are in the clear and we are drying out. All right, down to a 0 chance for rain for your July 3rd, July 4th, which is more celebrated, into the 5th and 6th as well. I want to talk a little bit more about the long range pattern though. I'm just going to let it roll. This cold front actually dies out, stalls out, intertwines with this low, and then there's going to be another front that's off towards the north. But what happens is we have this high pressure system also putting up the Heisman that is going to prevent any development, even if it does turn into Tropical Storm Chantal, that it's not going to work its way into the Carolinas right away. Now, of course, the pieces can move a little bit, but as of right now, about the day 6 to 7 time frame, we do have a 20% chance for developing or storm number 3. So far, Barry, Andrea, both of them lasted less than a day. I think if Chantal forms, it will be a very quick-lived storm as well. After Thursday, we have temperatures leveling out in the lower 90s, even up to the mid-90s by Sunday. Heading into Monday, back to 95 degrees, but at least we're relatively staying dry starting on Thursday. Let's head over to Majestic and see what's going on for your morning commute.
Good morning, everyone. Heading out the door this morning. Here's a live look outside. This is I-77 at Atondo Ave. You can see cars are definitely slowing down as they're making their way towards the uptown area. Not seeing any major concerns right now, but as we switch it over to my live traffic map, you can see we have a lot of minor ongoing accidents at this time. Let's highlight a few of them for you. This one right here is a new one. It's a crash right now on W.T. Harris Boulevard at Reams Road. So be mindful of that. You may be slowed down a minute or two for your morning commute. Otherwise, another crash right here on Brookshire Boulevard at Caldwell Williams Road. Seeing mainly green, so no significant impacts there. 2 ongoing wrecks still on Freedom Drive. You may notice it if your morning commute takes you this way. The first one here on Elmwood Circle, and then another one just to the right of it on Freedom Drive at Toddville Road. So again, multiple things that are ongoing, but none of them are bringing significant impacts. This one here is a stalled vehicle on Ray Road and Pineville Matthews Road. We'll have another check on those area roadways all coming up here shortly.
Time for our Tuesday Tail Wagger. Along with the friends at Animal Care and Control, we've got some great news about this guy. Parsley found a forever home, has been adopted. Now, last week's Tail Wagger is still there, and that is Mitch. Mitch, also a great dog available there. Let's bring on today's Tail Wagger. His name is Taz. Taz is about 4 years old, sweet and gentle dog. He is a happy dog. Loves to be in the backyard and just kind of hanging out as a couch potato, and he is great on a leash, knows some commands. Tell you what, this is the perfect pet. Not good with cats, but great with kids. Look at that face right there. His name is Taz. He is available today at Animal Care and Control. They're open Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Make an appointment by calling 704-336-7600. One more time. He's about 4 years old. He's a great dog, great on a leash. Good family friend. His name is Taz, and he is our very special Tuesday Tail Wagger. And once again, Parsley was adopted. I'm Larry Sprinkle.
So glad that Parsley was adopted. We were all worried about Parsley. So that's some great news. And speaking of pets, while many of us enjoy the sights and the sounds of fireworks during the 4th of July, our four-legged friends aren't always as excited.
That's right. WCNC Charlotte's Jane Monreal spoke with a veterinarian about tips to keep them feeling good amid the chaos.
If you think about this from a pet's perspective, it can be like apocalyptic. They don't know why things are blowing up, and they don't know why the sky is being lit up and why people are yelling and all of this. So it can be really scary for them. So my best advice is to try to find a little den of safety for them within your home. Think of an interior room, or a room at least that you can block the windows off so there's not all the flashing of lights and things. And get some really good white noise going for them, comfy bed, yummy treats.
Veterinarian Dr. Katie Nelson with Chewy says getting your dogs in that space now can help them come the 4th of July.
A couple of days ahead of time, just putting them in there for a few minutes at a time so that it's not an anxious place for them, that it is like that truly that little zen space for them is a great idea.
Dr. Nelson says make sure your pets are microchipped just in case they do sneak out.
We do have lots of pets that escape on 4th of July and end up in, local shelters to be having to, get taken home the next day or the day after that. So make sure if they do have a collar, that ID is current. Make sure their microchip is updated as well.
If you're not sure if they're microchipped or if the info is accurate, a quick trip to your vet can help you figure that out.
If you're not quite sure, call your veterinarian. They should have that information on file for you, and you can go ahead and give a call or go online to your microchip manufacturer and update all of that information. If you don't have a microchip, that's fine too. It really takes like 10 seconds. So it's as simple as just giving an injection to a pet. So call your veterinarian and you can get that done at any time.
And a final tip, Dr. Nielsen says don't share your party food with your pets. Cookout scraps can be harmful for their tummies. She just says stick to their usual diet to avoid digestive issues. Jade Monreal, WCNC Charlotte.
And we're going to take a quick break. We'll make sure you keep it right here on WCNC Plus. We're going to have another update on weather and traffic and the day's top headlines at 8 o'clock.
Good morning, everybody. So current temperatures, we're up to 77 around Charlotte. Nice mix of cloud and sunshine. We'll try to get a little bit of fog, mainly just happened to the northwest up in the mountains. Storm impacts today. I think you're going to see some pretty frequent lightning. We've seen a lot of that recently. And then also your flooding could have some flash flooding from place to place. And then damaging winds would be the third threat as well. Some chance for some severe thunderstorm warnings as well. I think we really want to focus in right here around the mountains and the foothills. You're seeing a few hours of some very heavier downpours. So there's a good chance we could have some localized flooding, even some flash flood warnings that pop up really by the early to mid-afternoon. And then it's mid to late afternoon they start to progress a little bit close to the Charlotte area. Slight chance for an isolated storm to begin with, and then by the evening commute we're looking at those scattered storms heading through the evening. Now our 7-day forecast, weather alert to end the day. After that, chance for storms Wednesday afternoon, then we're drying out. 92 for the 3rd and the 4th of July. Majestic?
All right, good Tuesday morning, everyone. It is 7:57. If you're getting ready to head out the door this morning, let's take a live look outside. I-77 at Atondo Ave. You can see traffic is moving very slowly, heading towards the uptown area. No big accident there, just a lot of people heading out and starting their day. A new accident just popping up. Right lane is currently blocked because of a crash. It's on College Street, both ways at 11th Street. So as we head to the north, we're also watching this, another crash on W.T. Harris Boulevard. Take it easy this morning.
You are streaming live right now at 8 a.m. here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Lisa Washington. A warning this morning for people who go out in South End. Thieves are targeting cell phones inside bars and restaurants, and it's happening more this year than it did last year.
WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane now live with what police want you to know before your next trip to South End. Richard, a lot of these folks just out having a good time, not even thinking about it.
That's the issue right there, Ben. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Basically, folks aren't thinking when they have their cell phones. They just have them. They may lay them down when they're out and about. They may just leave them in their pocket, not paying attention to them. And that's what thieves are looking for. So that's why police are saying don't do that anymore, because there's been an increase in the amount of folks who are dealing with cell phone thefts. Now, CMPD says they're putting out this warning after seeing the surge in cell phone thefts targeting residents and visitors here in South End. Thieves are targeting shoppers and diners at popular bars, restaurants, and outdoor patios, which are among those most at risk, especially during peak hours. Police are emphasizing that these incidents often occur swiftly. Without warning, the phones are snatched from pockets or your purse, or even if it's in your hand, it happens within the blink of an eye. That's why authorities are urging everyone to stay vigilant in public. They say keep devices zipped away and set up using those tracking apps like Find My iPhone or Find My Device, which helps you locate your device if it's lost or stolen. But police say the best advice is also to pay attention, because they say basically once a crook gets their hands on your phone, it's really hard to get it back.
One person will take your phone and hand it off to another person who's gone in moments. Your phone will track to an apartment complex or a large parking lot. It's going to be very difficult for us to find out where it is. We work closely with all of our bars and restaurant owners. So we're just seeking for anything that they can see, their bouncers or their security, to keep us in the loop if they identify any people, especially if they capture on surveillance footage, so that we can make cases on these individuals.
And they say that while these incidents are happening really here in South End, they say this happens all around this area and all around the country for that matter. People losing their cell phones or having their cell phones stolen from them. Guys?
Yeah, we don't want people listening to this thinking that it won't happen to them because they're not in South End, because this can happen anywhere. Do we have like some firm numbers here about just how often this is happening?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, police say that they've had a count of 37 cell phones stolen this year compared to last year this time. Now, while that number may sound small, it shows an increase of 106% increase from just last year. So that's why they're on alert. There are many more cases where some people may not have reported them as of yet. So they want folks to be very vigilant in making sure they keep their phones and all of their personal belongings secure, especially when you're out enjoying yourself on a night or a weekend here in the Charlotte area.
Always be aware of your surroundings. Right. Thanks, Richard. Well, a live look now from uptown, and you can see surrounding those skyscrapers, there's some clouds right now. Hopefully things won't be too serious earlier today. We do know that there's a chance for some storms later today, and perhaps that will cool things off a bit, Chris.
We're going to see these clouds in the morning, and then sunshine comes out, and then we'll have more clouds, but it will technically cool things off. We are actually looking at only a high of 90 instead of 93 to 96 where we've been the last 4 days. But we're already seeing a testament of what's coming. These clouds over here in Lylesville have some darker bottoms, so it shows the amount of energy that we have to the atmosphere really by the moisture criteria. So since we have an elevated moisture contact, you have something that's called PWATS, which is precipitable water. Those values are up to about 2 inches. So that means it could rain up to 2 inches per hour in a lot of these storms, and that's where you kind of have a problem here. So these, even though they aren't going to produce any rain for the near term, definitely looking at a chance for a better storm a little bit later on. So we could have an isolated storm by the afternoon, but I think it's really closer to about 5 o'clock. It's impacting Charlotte. Starts much earlier over in the foothills, so we'll get to that. 75 right around Lincolnton to Statesville, 77 closer to Charlotte. 93 was the high yesterday. No, a nice 90 for today. And our weather impact window, I expanded this for the weather alert window just to include the foothills. I don't think Charlotte really is impacted until about 5. That's the other graphic that I was showing you. But I do think we could see some flash flooding starting between about 2 and 4 for the foothills. Heavy rain, gusty winds, and lightning is going to be a possibility. And our weather alert forecast, as I mentioned, really after 5 o'clock, I think is where we see most of that activity around the 4 to E5 loop. Could still have a storm before that, but I'm talking about the main bunch of storms. 85 still feeling like 92, where it just shows the heat index and the amount of moisture in the air, that storm fuel that is actively around us. Here's what I'm talking about. This is 2 o'clock. At this point, I think we have some active storms. Not necessarily severe thunderstorms, could have some special weather statements, but notice, focusing on one area, Taylorsville, Morganton, Banner Elk, either one, we don't really see this move too much over a 2-hour time frame. So that means over in Burke County, down over to Caldwell County, you had a system that was a training system, one after another, that caused some pretty extreme flash flooding. I think that's going to be a possibility, and we have that especially north of I-40. Now, as this storm system works its way towards Charlotte, I think has a better chance for maybe a stronger thunderstorm, kind of interacting with the peak heating of the day, mixed cloud and sunshine initially, but then we have these scattered storms that start to cluster together heading into the evening. So I think we'll have some impacts right around your evening commute, and then it will start to erode as we get a little bit closer to sunset. Once the sun does set, we'll still have some on and off rain, thunder and lightning, but the severe weather window really closes between about 9 and 10 o'clock. Here's a couple of the parameters that we're looking at. So the Storm Prediction Center has us under an excessive rain impact, a medium threat. That just just means that you have a moderate threat for some flash flooding and some pretty extreme runoff. And then the futurecast rainfall totals picking up on that. This is not for everyone. A lot of us will get less than an inch, but it's the few isolated areas that pick up 1 to 2 inches of rain. More so if this event happens. And this is not solely, hey, Boone, you're receiving 3.6 inches of rain. This just really shows the possibility, the criteria, the potential that some areas could have over 3 inches, and that's where you could have a flash flooding event. That muggy meter will remain at a high today. Heading into tomorrow, it's really not until about the middle of the week that we start to have a little bit drier air. So instead of it being super muggy, it's just humid. That's a nice little July change. We'll have some scattered storms by the middle of your Wednesday, 92 for your Thursday. July 4th, 92 and storm free. That's great. Usually you have at least a 20% chance for a pop-up storm in the near term. By the weekend, looks like most of it's staying dry, but we are trending up temperature-wise. Right now, over the next 10 days, looks like Monday is the hottest at 95 degrees, feeling closer to 100 degrees. But pretty good looking forecast. Majestic, this is exactly what you want for your 4th of July weekend.
Oh, I think so too. Perfect if you're heading out to the lake, if you're packing up the family, you're going camping, whatever it may be. Great summertime forecast. All right, taking a live look outside York County. Good morning to you. Waking up, we're starting to see, yes, more cars out on those roads. It's 8:07 right now. I-77 towards the uptown area at Atondo looks fine at this point. But a few things I do want to point out as we're heading into our morning time commute. We have a lot of activity on my map, but nothing that's really significant that's really going to impact everyone, or at least a big majority of you. One thing I do want to let you know about, though, is we have a crash in the uptown area. Right lane right now is blocked because of a crash on College Street, both ways on 11th Street. In addition to that, off to the east, we're watching this Sharon Amity Road at Kimberly Glen Lane. Ongoing wreck, seeing mainly green right there, so at least we have that. And then this one here is a crash on W.T. Harris Boulevard at Reams Road, seeing some yellow, so it might slow you down a couple of minutes if you typically drive that way. And then this crash is on Brookshire Boulevard at Caldwell Williams Road, seeing mainly green. Those are the things I'm looking at right now. We'll have another check on those roads coming up.
All right, Majestic, 8:08 now. We've been talking about that proposed 1-cent sales tax in Mecklenburg County for transportation in the future. Excitement over the area's transit future could be overshadowed as the Charlotte City Council faces 2 internal investigations. City leaders held a closed-door meeting yesterday. While we know it is tied to an investigation by the city attorney's office, we don't know what it's about. We do know last month, City Attorney Anthony Fox called for investigations after someone leaked details of the city's $300,000 payout to CMPD Chief Johnny Jennings, as well as allegations of corruption from within the council.
One is a concern about the violation of the open meetings law provision that allows for individuals to go into closed session. And I will be reaching out to Councilmember Wallington because the allegations of illegality and corrupt are very important, and we have to take those seriously.
A city spokesperson tells us they aren't sure if the information from yesterday's meeting will ever be made public.
8:10 right now on WCNC Plus, a live look right now inside the U.S. Senate, where senators pulled an all-nighter, still working right now. And so far, not a lot of progress as far as getting this legislation passed. It's a tax and spending bill. Most Republican senators appear intent on passing what the president calls a big, beautiful bill by July 4th, just a few days away. But as NBC's Alice Barr explains, Democrats are doing everything they can to stall a final vote.
On Capitol Hill overnight, the marathon before the sprint as Republicans push to pass President Trump's signature spending and tax cuts bill.
Make sure people's taxes don't go up tomorrow, the next day, forever.
Senators locked in a vote-a-rama, introducing unlimited amendments before a final vote.
We have before us a bill that gives tax breaks to the top 1% that will be paid in cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, and more.
Proposed changes repeatedly shot down, including one from Republican Susan Collins, to increase taxes on the ultra-wealthy in order to boost funding for rural hospitals.
When these facilities close their doors, the people they serve
are often left behind without access to health care.
Democrats say Republicans are creating the danger to rural health care through Medicaid cuts and not going far enough to fix it.
It is a Band-Aid on an amputation. It provides just a tiny fraction of the nearly $1 trillion in cuts.
More than 11 million Americans are expected to lose their health care. Republicans argue the overhaul will help keep Medicaid running long term.
We are fiscally making Medicaid more sound.
Also touting the bill's extended tax cuts and billions for defense, deportations, and the border. Spending the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates will increase the deficit by more than $3 trillion. President Trump's one-time advisor Elon Musk resuming his online attacks, saying Republicans who campaigned on cutting spending and backed this bill, quote, will lose their primary next year if it is the last thing I do on this earth. House Speaker Mike Johnson repeatedly urged Senate Republicans not to make too many adjustments to the bill because the House would need to pass the Senate version without changes in order to meet President Trump's deadline to get it to his desk by the end of the week. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
8:12 right now on WCNC Plus. And live pictures right now just outside of our nation's capital and Air Force One, the steps leading up to it. President Trump getting ready to leave for Florida to visit what is being called Alligator Alcatraz. It is basically an immigration detention center under construction there in Florida that's basically built on a swamp there and surrounded by snakes, alligators, panthers, think Everglades with all the animals. Protesters, for one, say it's inhumane, and then others also cite environmental concerns, saying that the construction should stop until the site has seen a comprehensive environmental review. You see Marine One right there. The president will be joined by his Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, as well, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has sort of touted this facility as a way that the state of Florida is dealing with undocumented immigrants. We'll keep our eye on that. Well, President Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, who lives in Florida, now weighing a Senate bid here in North Carolina. A source telling NBC News that Laura Trump is looking to run for the seat left vacant by Republican Senator Thom Tillis. He announced this weekend that he would not seek re-election after President Trump slammed him for not supporting the big, beautiful bill. Laura Trump was born in Wilmington, still has family there, and is the former RNC co-chair.
Right now, day 2 of jury deliberations getting underway in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. But after just day 1 of deliberations, reporter Chloe Malas explains why there is already a problem with the jury.
Only about an hour after the case of Sean Diddy Combs was turned over to the jury, already a potential wild card in the deliberation room. The jury delivering a note to the judge saying one juror is not following instructions. He's a 51-year-old scientist with a PhD.
It was unclear whether or not there was a concern about following the legal instructions or the other instructions about how to approach the case.
Is it too late to replace a juror?
It's not. The judge can, but it would be a big deal once deliberations start.
The case is complex and sprawling. Combs charged with 5 federal counts, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
In this courthouse, 8 men and 4 women are sifting through 7 weeks of testimony from 34 witnesses as media from all over the world await a verdict.
As jurors began deliberating in the courtroom, Combs' family joined hands and prayed. Prosecutors allege Combs ran a criminal enterprise, wielding his power to have employees carry out illegal activity on his behalf. They also argued that he used violence, drugs, and threats of blackmail to coerce former girlfriends Cassie Ventura and another referred to only as Jane to have sex with male escorts while he watched. In contrast, the defense not calling any witnesses, resting their case in 30 minutes. Combs declined to take the stand. But in closing arguments, his lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said all sexual encounters were consensual, saying Combs had a swingers lifestyle. Agnifilo also arguing that this video of Combs beating Ventura at a Los Angeles hotel in 2016 is evidence of domestic violence, not sex trafficking, going so far as to call their relationship a great modern love story.
Tom Combs' demeanor really seemed to shift throughout the day. At one point, he showed the cover of 2 books, one being The Power of Positive Thinking, the other, The Happiness Advantage. But when another jury note came in about transportation of drugs, his mood seemed to be a bit more somber.
Chloe Malas with that report. Also trending this morning, a major twist in the murders of 4 Idaho college students. Just weeks before a trial was set to begin, the suspected killer is changing his plea to guilty. According to reports, the news was delivered to the families of the victims in a letter. Brian Koberger is accused of stabbing 4 students at a rental home near campus back in 2022. His murder trial was set to begin in a little more than a month. Now it's up to a judge to actually accept the plea deal. If he does, Koberger will face sentencing next. That deal means that he will no longer face the death penalty.
More money now available for folks in South Carolina recovering from Hurricane Helene. South Carolina's new state budget now in effect and includes $40 million to help homeowners with disaster relief. The funding targets low-income residents making less than 30% of the median income, as well as seniors and families with young kids. Officials say the main thing is letting people know that they have to apply to get that help.
You might know somebody that was impacted by the hurricane that didn't apply to FEMA for assistance, is in that low to moderate income community. You know, they might be old and elderly. They may not trust the government. Have them apply. The worst we could do is say no. But if they're low to moderate income and they're elderly and maybe disabled, it is very likely they're exactly the person we're looking for.
The federal government also sending $150 million to the state's hardest hit counties. 80% of that's going to go to the 6 upstate counties affected most. The remaining 20% will be spent on 9 other counties that also had extensive damage.
Well, turning now to the weather and take a look at this. Overnight, you may have gotten some rain and perhaps you saw some lightning. Well, look at this view. This is from our Dallas camera as lightning fills the sky. Chris says this was a powerful and a strike.
Yeah, pretty impressive here. So here, I want to step in. Notice this little line right there. It's actually a big line from afar. But what this is that positive lightning strike, as we mentioned. So 1 out of every 10 lightning strikes is positive. Now, the thing about these is they last the longest. So look when this strikes. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, several other lightning strikes that are still going on while that is illuminated. These are also the ones once they reach the ground. You ever see a flash of lightning and then immediately the house almost starts shaking? Well, that's a positive lightning strike. These are the most deadly as well because they are so much stronger and they last so much longer. So they're 10 times stronger. They have 10 times the amperes than any other lightning strike. They last 10 times longer and they're also 10 times louder. Those are the ones that literally shake the house than negative lightning. So lightning actually is positive and negatively charged, just like a battery. Just lightning is a little bit more negatively charged, just the way the things work with the balance of the electrons. And those are the usually fingerlings that you're seeing here in the background. That's negative when it's that one single bolt. And then oftentimes we'll see it off in the distance. Say if you're over at Myrtle Beach looking over at the ocean where it looks like it lasts for a few seconds. Now you know that's a positive lightning strike. Those are the ones you got to watch out for. But it's surprising. One of the most amazing stats about lightning is 9 out of every 10 people that are struck actually survive. Now, they do oftentimes have long-lasting effects from it, but usually if you're struck by a positive lightning strike, as we just saw on the top of that cloud, people aren't as lucky. So our lightning intensity definitely is going to be thriving by about the mid to late afternoon. That's where we're seeing the most active environment because that's where things are most unstable. We're still going to jog this heading into the evening, lasting as much as 8 o'clock, and then after that, we're still going to have a chance for some flashes of lightning, and I think this regenerates itself by the middle of tomorrow afternoon. So it's a low to a moderate threat for lightning. Whenever you have a juiced up atmosphere like this, you're going to have that potential. But I think the number one as far as the severe threats go, it's going to be that flooding potential, and I'm primarily looking to the northwest of Charlotte. We're looking at one storm after another, and our hail threat is almost non-existent, and our wind threat is very, very low at this point. So I think the reason why our wind threat is so low is because the instability actually starts to wane down as we work our way through the afternoon. But our excessive rain impacts did move up to a medium threshold that's starting right here in Monroe up to Hickory around Morganton. But I think it's primarily northwest of Charlotte that we're going to see the best flooding potential. As for the severe potential, just a very low threshold for the time being, but still worth mentioning. Chance for some special weather statements, meaning that, hey, gusts up to about 40 to 50 miles per hour, or a few severe thunderstorm warnings. Here's the storm fuel I'm talking about. Once you get to about 4 o'clock, you're just dealing with plain old rain, I think, around Hickory and Morganton. You still have prime storm fuel as storms starting to develop between about 4 and 6, but then we're back down to just that low area anywhere between about 6 and 8. At this point, our window is closing pretty quickly. I do have our general window open until about 10 o'clock, but realistically, I think it's that late afternoon heading into the early evening that we're going to have the worst of it, and then that rain will jog into the overnight as well. So quickly in, quickly out as far as that storm potential is going. So let me show you. Let's slow it down for you. We're looking at some of the heaviest rain. This is where we're talking about training rain systems, one cell after another. That's really between 2 and 4 right through this neck of the woods. Chance for a lot of lightning, some heavier rain really close to about that 4 to 7 o'clock window right around your evening commute. And then we start to see things wind down and then just general thunderstorms, some big flashes of lightning heading through the overnight. One more round of thunderstorms is possible tomorrow afternoon. After that, we're drying out just in time for the 4th of July. Look where temperatures trend as well. 88 tomorrow, the cool spot before we're back to the mid-90s Sunday, Monday, heading into next week. Majestic, anything rumbling for our morning commute?
Well, we have multiple ongoing smaller accidents, nothing that's significantly slowing people down on those interstates. Let's start with this, though. I-77 north of Griffith. Here's a live look outside. You can see a car is off to the side, but traffic is flowing just like it should be as of now. But look at my map. I told you there's a lot going on. We're going to highlight a few of the newest ongoing wrecks that you might want to know about. This one here right in the uptown area. Right lane right now is blocked because of a crash on College Street, both ways at 11th Street. In addition to that, a new one just to the south of it. This one is on 12th Street and Davidson, so you know how it goes. A pretty congested spot that'll slow you down for your morning commute if you typically drive that way. This one here is on W.T. Harris Boulevard at Reams Road. Noticing still mainly all in the green, so nothing too concerning at this point. And then still watching the stalled vehicle on Ray Road in Pineville Matthews Road. Off to the west, you can see I-77 coming inbound. Lots of orange and red popping up. No accident here, just people all heading in the same direction. We'll have another check on those roads coming up here in just a few minutes. Ben.
All right, Majestic, thanks. Turning to your pets now. Panting, wet paws, red gums are all signs that your pet might be having a heat stroke.
Megan Maleras verifies the legality of leaving pets outside in heat and the new bill to keep pet parents on a leash.
Well, a responsible pet parent knows if it's too hot for us out here, it's probably too hot for our pets. But before you call police on a pooch panting on your neighbor's porch, let's verify.
Is it illegal to leave a pet outside in extreme heat in North Carolina? Our sources are North Carolina General Statute 14360, North Carolina Senate Bill 573, Guilford County Code, and Charlotte Ordinance 371. The answer needs context. The current North Carolina law's animal cruelty clause doesn't explicitly discuss heat or shelter. It says any person who deprives an animal of necessary sustenance can be guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. Senate Bill 573, proposed this year, specifically requires adequate shelter. The shelter must protect each animal from the elements and not readily conduct heat when the air temperature is greater than 85. The bill passed a first reading in the Senate in March and has a ways to go before becoming law. Most municipalities have their own rules. Guilford County's code requires pets have adequate shelter from the elements, and the tethering ordinance from 2014 makes it illegal to tie up a pet outside without supervision. The city of Charlotte's ordinance doesn't require supervision, but sets tether parameters requiring access to shelter.
Yeah, heat stroke can be very serious in pets. The ASPCA wants you to be mindful of life-threatening symptoms like a seizure or an elevated body temperature of 104. With your Verify, I'm Megan Maleras.
8:25 right now. Live pictures over uptown. Chris standing by with a look at your forecast. That and the headlines coming up right here on WCNC Plus.
Well, good morning, everybody. 90 degrees. That's our high today. That's better than 93 yesterday, right? We're already picking up some clouds. That means I think it is going to be overall a decent mix of cloud and sunshine, turning into more clouds and sunshine later on in the afternoon. High temperatures reaching the mid 80s, so feeling like 93 come noon, and then the upper 80s just tapping on that 90-degree point by the middle of the afternoon. Still going to have a real feel up to about 96 to 98 degrees. Shows that we're really juiced up as far as the atmosphere goes. Charlotte, I think, likely isn't going to see storms until the late afternoon, really about the 4 to 5 o'clock hours where it really starts to arrive from Gaston County over to Mecklenburg County. But the window of opportunity to stay weather alert opens up in the foothills by about 2 o'clock. Heavy rain there. Do have a chance for some flooding, some gusty winds, and also some pertinent lightning. Here it is, looking at 2 to 4, seeing rain sitting in some areas for a decent amount of time. That could lead to some localized flooding, even some flash flooding, some swollen creeks. Once it gets a little bit closer to the Charlotte area, a chance for some gustier winds. Things start to fade out, though, pretty quickly closer to sunset. And then once you get to the overnight, on and off rain's a possibility. And then after that, seeing temperatures lingering either side of 90, back to lower 90s for the 4th of July. Majestic?
All right, taking a quick peek at those drive times. If you're coming in from Matthews this morning, about 26 minutes, and about 49 if you're coming in from Salisbury. So keep this in mind if you are heading out the door. I-77 from York County. It's a beautiful start to the day. Just make sure you're taking it easy later on in the evening as those showers and storms do move through. One stalled vehicle off to the side on I-77 just north of Griffith.
Thanks for streaming WCNC Plus. It's 8:30. I'm Lisa Washington.
And I'm Ben Thompson. New laws now in effect across the Carolinas being July 1st. They impact everything from what you can buy at a gas station to safety in schools.
WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards is live this morning with a closer look at what's changing and what it means for you. Destiny.
Yeah, several laws going into effect in North Carolina today, including ones that crack down on certain vape products, as well as human trafficking. And then in South Carolina, a new law is in effect that aims to make schools safer for students living with epilepsy. Now, starting with North Carolina, House Bill 900 is now a law that bans the sale of vape products that haven't been approved by the FDA. Retailers must check a state directory to ensure their products are certified or risk fines and even losing their business license. Another new law targets human trafficking in the lodging industry. That means hotels, motels, and short-term rentals will now be required to train staff on how to recognize and report the warning signs. Back in January, Lenore Brown with the State Council for Women and Youth Involvement spoke about the many ways trafficking can happen and why greater awareness matters.
That individual may have children and they're with their partner, and their partner is their perpetrator. Their partner is their exploiter. It's someone that is seeking shelter. It's someone that came to this nation trying to have a better opportunity.
In South Carolina, the Seizure Safe Schools Act is now in place. This law requires every school district in the state to create a seizure training program for its staff. And then the lessons are required to, or the lessons need to include epilepsy education as well as seizure first aid. And the person teaching them must be qualified and certified. I'll send it back to you guys.
And Destiny, something else has changed, and we talked about those digital licenses here in North Carolina. Bring us up to speed on those.
Yeah, these mobile IDs, which are in effect in several other states, now in North Carolina, they have not been officially rolled out yet. There's not a way to sign up for them, but they are officially can be recognized in North Carolina as legal. And this is something that is not a alternative option replacing your physical ID. This is an optional alternate alongside your ID. So it has the same qualifications as your physical ID. It's just another option to use for convenience. And it can be used for things like, based off of the rules in other states, it can be used for recognition by law enforcement for things that are age restricted and you need to verify your age, as well as at TSA. So that'll definitely be a big opportunity for people to use it in line at TSA. And they say that it's just like scanning something, either using a third-party app or in your digital wallet, but it's also important that you have that physical ID on you too. So NCDMV still has to, come up with the rules for this. They still have to make sure that it meets all of the national standards and meets the rules according to the legislation, and we'll be waiting to see.
Well, that certainly would be a convenience. I mean, you scan your boarding pass, you got your real ID there, you're done. All right, Destiny, thanks for that.
8:33 right now here on WCNC Plus. Chris joins us right now, and we've got a WCNC weather impact alert for this afternoon.
Yeah, and it really opens up in the late afternoon. Now, those watching from the foothills, Morganton talking to you over to around the Hickory area. I think you're first going to see some pretty slow moving storms between about 2 and 4 o'clock. At that point, if one storm moves over one area after another, as Caldwell County just recently, about a week ago, had some pretty extreme flash flooding. So we do have that opportunity. It's not a guarantee that we will, but we do have the setup for those training storms. So that's why we're going weather alert for the main reason. But the secondary threat, we also have a chance for some gusty winds. It's nice to not be in the mid 90s. We were at actually 96, 94, 96, 93 over the last 4 days. Well, today, nice cool 90-degree point. That's nice, right? This will be day number 16 if we hit 90 degrees of 90 plus. And also, we've officially had 12 days in a row of 90 degrees plus. Looks like either today or tomorrow that is going to fall, because I have a high of 88 for tomorrow with some scattered rain as the cold front's pushing past the area before we're right back into the 90s, continuing yet again another streak. But this is July, people. We can actually expect it to be 90 pretty much going forward, where we actually average a high of 90 degrees now through the middle of August, and we actually jump up to 91 through the first or the middle part of July as well. And that's actually the hottest air that we have climatologically speaking for the month of July. All right, moving on. We have 2 to 10. So I've changed this window several times because it depends where you are. If you're in the Charlotte area, I don't think it really opens up until about 4 or 5 o'clock, and it continues in the evening. Now, the good news is the deeper you get into the evening, the less likely you're going to have a stronger thunderstorm and things start to weaken. Still could have some pretty intense lightning, as many of you have written us so far, and that actually lightning video that we showed you from before, that big positive one, that was around 9:45 last night. So I think we still have active lightning zone throughout the course of this evening. But then heavy rain, number 1, gusty winds, number 2. But that window closes pretty quickly. So looking at some of the products from the Storm Prediction Center, most of us under a medium threshold for some excessive rain. That is just a fancy meteorological way of saying, hey, you have a chance for some flooding. And then a very low chance for some severe thunderstorms. But regardless of the Storm Prediction Center putting us under this yellow shading, we've had at least special weather statements each and every day over the last 4 days. Just some of them have turned into severe thunderstorm warnings. because it is this time of year. You don't need to have a designated thing by the Storm Prediction Center to have a strong thunderstorm for this time of the summer. Our rainfall totals, though, are the ones that stand out to me the most, because one storm could follow another storm, and that's the training that I keep on bringing up. That's the perfect recipe for flash flooding. And this is not a guarantee that you're seeing over 3 inches of rain in the mountains or Watauga County, but this is showing that we are seeing some pretty extreme numbers here compared to anywhere from 0.05 to 3/4 of an inch. So the rain totals are going to be all over the place. Some of you just barely get some light rain, while others are going to get a torrential downpour for a couple of hours and then overwhelming the gutters and some of the drains. Noticing that window opening up around 2 to 4, right around the foothills. Seeing those storms starting to gather and cluster together as we close out the afternoon. When they cluster, they glom, they form lines. That's where you really up the wind threat. And when they're individual, sometimes slow moving, that can allow for some heavier rain or some hail. Hail, I do not think is likely today. Really don't have the profile for it. And then I'll get my head out of the way, blocking that 7 o'clock time frame. It really looks like the evening commute is going to be the biggest impact right here in the Charlotte area. There's also a chance that Charlotte doesn't really see anything until well into the evening. That is another scenario that I've seen on here. And then we'll just have some on and off scattered rain through the rest of this evening. Still some active lightning heading past midnight as well. After this, we're going to see one last batch of thunderstorms for your Wednesday afternoon. And it's actually interesting. You have Wednesday afternoon, 88, the only day that we've had at that point. So last time we were actually in the 80s, we were 89 on June 18th. So it's been a while. 92 then by July 3rd, which fun, interesting fact. One more thing to mention. July 3rd, the official start of the dog days of summer. Get panting. We have 92 degrees for your July 4th, and then the lower to the mid 90s through your July 4th weekend. So Majestic, we've been talking earlier. This is the type of forecast you need and want for the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, it'll be good. If you're firing up the barbecue, going to a firework display, you know, you expect the heat, the humidity. At least we don't have to dodge any showers or thunderstorms. Hey, let's get to those area roadways. If you're heading out the door, you can see our drive times this morning. About 27 minutes if you're coming in from Belmont, and about 31 if you're coming in from Gastonia right now. Live pictures right now, I-77 from York County. Good morning to everyone. Seeing definitely some more cars out on those roads as people are waking up and starting their day. Here's I-85 at Sugar Creek. Much of the same here. Not seeing anything too significant at this point. But here's my live traffic map. There's still a lot that's ongoing. Multiple smaller accidents. I'll highlight a few of them for you. This one here on 12th Street and Davidson. We're starting to see some backups there. Some orange indicating just slow moving traffic at this point, which makes sense for that area. Another one here. It's another crash on W.T. Harris Boulevard and Reams Road. And then finally continuing to watch this one. Actually, you know what? It was just cleared, so some good news for your Tuesday morning commute. Again, not seeing any major concerns on our major interstates, just multiple smaller accidents. We'll have another check on those roads coming up here in a bit. Lisa.
Thanks. 8:39 now. The holiday weekend is just a few days away, and this year South Carolina agencies are teaming up to make sure everyone has a fun and safe 4th of July. The State Department of Natural Resources and the Highway Patrol are partnering to step up enforcement over the weekend. As a result, you will see more officers on the roads and out on the water.
We encourage folks to have a good time. We just want you to have a good time responsibly. You know, designated driver, use a rideshare service. If you know you're going to be on that water and you're going to be consuming alcohol, we would really like for you to designate a driver to and from, whether you're operating on the waterways or on our roadways.
Officials say it's everyone's responsibility to make sure that we all stay safe this weekend. The same goes for North Carolina. This year's Operation Firecracker Booze It and Lose It campaign is now in effect. Authorities will use public outreach and increased patrols to keep impaired drivers off the roads for the holiday. That campaign runs until Sunday.
8:40 right now here on WCNC Plus. The Justice Department just announcing what it calls the largest healthcare fraud takedown in U.S. history. Now, more than 300 defendants are charged with some $14 billion in fraud. WCNC Charlotte's Kaylin Hagwood breaks down the impact on taxpayers right here in the Carolinas.
Federal and state prosecutors worked across party lines to uncover not one, but 2 separate fraud schemes that they say are impacting people across the Carolinas. 9 people are now facing charges, accused of defrauding North and South Carolina's Medicaid programs of millions.
Republican and Democrat, we're all here with one goal, and that is to eradicate healthcare fraud.
fraud.
The larger case, dubbed Operation Border War, involves Donald Saunders of Charlotte and 7 co-conspirators who allegedly stole more than $21 million from South Carolina's Medicaid program. South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson says they targeted the state's most vulnerable patients.
They would start billing for services that these minor, severely disabled children never received.
Investigators say the suspects created fake companies near the state border, then filed fraudulent claims using stolen patient information. In a separate North Carolina case, Crystal Jackson of Charlotte allegedly stole nearly $2 million by billing Medicaid for services to patients who Attorney General Jeff Jackson says were dead or in jail.
She held herself out as a licensed provider of health care. She was not. She provided services to folks who were incarcerated or deceased, or at least claimed to.
These cases are part of a national crackdown that charged 324 defendants with more than $14 billion in health care fraud. Here in the Carolinas, prosecutors say they won't tolerate these types of crimes.
If you continue defrauding the Medicaid system, you are going down.
Well, the investigation isn't over. The attorneys general say they're investigating several other potential cases and asking anyone with information on fraudulent behavior to give them a call. Reporting here in Charlotte, Caitlin Hagwood, WCNC Charlotte.
A program that saves North Carolina thousands of dollars every single year of Medicaid services is now being shut down. The Healthy Opportunities pilot program helps Medicaid patients with non-medical things like home repairs and food deliveries. However, North Carolina lawmakers didn't include any money for the program in their initial budgets. The program saves the state about $1,000 per participant each year. As for now, a mini budget passed by the Senate will keep it running through part of this year.
North Carolina Governor Josh Stein laying out a plan to get more people into good-paying jobs. The governor met with his workforce council yesterday to talk about boosting career opportunities statewide. The goal is to help millions of North Carolinians earn advanced certificates or credentials that make them more attractive to employers and open the door to higher pay.
There's just so many pathways to success, and there's no single pathway that works for everybody. So we want everyone to be able to make their own way.
The council will continue meeting throughout the year and plans to release a new report in December. The time now is 8:44. It is time for us to connect the dots. That's when we make the news make sense. If you pay taxes, you get health care, or work in clean energy, this bill could affect you. President Trump's big, beautiful bill is moving through Congress, and it's being called one of the most sweeping economic proposals in years.
President Trump's new big, beautiful bill could shake up the entire economy. Let's connect the dots. It would lock in corporate tax breaks and give big benefits to wealthy households. That includes bigger deductions for property taxes and estates worth up to $15 million. But it could also lead to deep Medicaid cuts, costing millions of low-income Americans their health coverage. And that could mean fewer healthcare jobs, especially in rural areas. Clean energy companies are warning of big losses, too. The bill would strip tax breaks for solar, wind, and electric vehicles, hitting jobs in both red and blue states. Supporters say the bill helps businesses and working Americans by cutting income taxes on tips and overtime. But critics say it adds $3 trillion to the debt, hurting younger generations in the long run. The bill still needs final Senate approval and the second House vote before it lands on President Trump's desk. And that's connecting the dots.
Thanks a lot, Lisa, for connecting them dots. Well, we have some strong storm potential, but I'm also looking at a few other impacts. We'll get to that. Foothills, I think it's mainly about 2 to 6. I'm also going to include the mountains in there. I only have so much text to put in this little box. And then the Piedmont, that's really anywhere along the I-77 corridor, further off towards the east, including the greater Charlotte area, Gastonia, over to Shelby. That's about 4 to 10. I know it's a wide open window, but we also have 22 counties that we're covering. The flash flood potential, I think, is highest really northwest of us. It's wherever you're going to have one storm after another that kind of sits, and I am seeing some indications there to the northwest. We could have some rising water, especially if you live around some shallow areas, and then some strong gusty winds are also going to be a possibility. So what do you need to do? Well, you're already doing it. WCNC Plus. It's going to be Brad a little bit later on tracking some of these storms, and then just need you to stay weather alert for the near term. So our storm impacts, I think the 2 highest ones are flooding and lightning. So lightning is still going to be around a moderate zone. We have a really charged atmosphere. The more water that you add to it. And actually, the more electrons that are present, that allows for more of an active light zone. But being honest with you, we've already had that in the last several days and pretty much most summer afternoons heading into the evenings when storms fire up, you're going to have this threshold. And then the winds are going to be number 3. So we just have a low threshold there. Our excessive rain impacts, I really should just rename this the potential flooding, and that's a medium threat right around the Charlotte area to Concord, Salisbury, including everyone up to the mountains, and then all of us under a yellow shading here for a low chance for severe storms. Only one not included is part of Chesterfield County, but honestly, it's usually within a 25-mile zone that we're going to verify that as well. Our storm fuel, one thing about this is it cuts off in the foothills pretty closely. I was really in between just saying, hey, 2 to 4, I think is your main zone for the foothills, and I think that's going to verify for your storms, but the heavy rain could still linger into that point. Maybe if you do get a flash flood warning, it will last a little bit longer than that, but then our storm fuel drops off pretty quickly. So if you don't get storms by about 8 o'clock, you're good, because I think it's just going to be general rain. Of course, you'll still have that lightning threat, but that's pretty much each and every July evening. But we do have some drier air on the way, so that's pretty exciting. Our future cast showing that quick moving system will really be out of here by tomorrow, but really it's slow movement as far as the individual cells go. Check this out. Here's the 2 to 4 o'clock time frame that I'm talking about right around the foothills. For the Morganton area over to Taylorsville, that's where we're seeing the most excessive rainfall. Again, this is just model data. It could change. It doesn't have to be that one pinpoint. What happened in Caldwell County about a week ago, and I think over a week ago now, where we had some extreme flash flooding, over 3 inches of rainfall, that's the reason why we're going weather alert, because that is going to be a possibility. Most of you are just going to have a passing storm, as we have had on and off over the last several days. And then the scattered rain will arrive by the end of the afternoon. So your evening commute, you could have some pretty stormy conditions, heavy rain at times, and some gustier winds. And then after the sun sets, I think we will cut off our severe potential, but then still on and off rain will be a possibility. There it is, our high temperature trend, 88. That's the bottom on Wednesday. The top is Monday at 95. Our lows, just memorize 71, 72, and you'll most likely be right over the next several days. And then after that, our rainfall chances taking a break Monday through the 4th of July weekend, starting to turn up again really Monday and beyond, heading through the middle of next week. Not a bad 10-day outlook, just hot, humid, with on and off storms, except for that little time frame. Not too bad. Let's head over to Majestic, see what's going on.
All right, good morning, everyone. Want to show you a live look outside. This is I-85 at Sugar Creek. You can see cars are moving nice and smoothly. Not seeing anything too concerning across our major interstates at this point, so a nice start to our Tuesday morning commute. As we switch it on over to my maps, we still have a lot of minor accidents that are continuing to be ongoing. This one here, it's on 12th Street and Davidson Street, seeing some stop-and-go traffic at times because of that. And then just to the south of it, a stalled vehicle on 12th Street in Alexander. So we're continuing to look at that, keep you up to date there. Another ongoing wreck, it's in the Uptown area, Trade Street and Poplar Street, yellow indicating medium impacts with that ongoing crash. Off to the west, this is at Queen City Drive and Mulberry Church Road. You can see pockets of yellow, again, medium impacts. All of these are just bringing those minor impacts. Really, again, nothing is majorly concerning I-77 or I-85. This one is new. It's on Freedom Drive at Ashley Road. Look at this, though, 2 lanes, both in the yellow, meaning those impacts are there. You can still go around it, just moving a little bit slow because it is one of our newer wrecks this morning. On 3rd Street and Baldwin Ave, you can see this ongoing crash as well. We'll continue to keep a close eye on everything for you, but this is what I'm watching for your Tuesday morning commute as of now.
All right, Majestic, thanks so much. Well, check this out. Production is officially underway for The Devil Wears Prada 2. The new film will focus on Miranda Priestley dealing with the decline of magazines while clashing with her former assistant Emily, who is now a top executive. Almost all of the original cast is set to return. The sequel is expected to hit theaters next May. So long to wait for such. I just anticipate it's going to be a great movie.
I admittedly was late to the movie, but once I saw it,
so good.
Everybody is just fantastic.
Really is.
I mean, they're all so good.
And Meryl Streep, I mean, Does she ever go
Right?
wrong?
I know.
No. All right. Well, if you are looking for a reason to grab a sweet treat today, how about this? It is National Creative Ice Cream Flavors Day. You can skip the traditional vanilla and chocolate and sample more unique flavors like lavender, banana pudding, pickle, or even bacon. Now, here on the morning team, we brainstormed a few creative flavors of our own. I think we'll start with mine, and it is strawberries and champagne.
Ooh.
Never had that before.
Right?
Very nice.
Could be good.
Okay. All right. I
Very
think,
nice.
Ben, you're next.
I'm next. There is a Trader Joe product that comes out in the holidays that's pretzel covered in white chocolate with peppermint crusts.
Sounds good. I've
that's-
never had it, but I
It's
don't even have to have it.
amazing.
for-
Like it would make the best ice cream in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would there be chunks of pretzels in or just the flavor?
No, you have to have chunks.
Just chunks. Okay. I just want to
You
double
got-
check.
absolutely.
Chunky.
Oh,
All right.
man, please. I hope somebody's listening to that one. Mine's pretty cool, but not as good as Ben's, being honest with you. Spring rain, of course.
Aw.
Talking about lavender, lemon, blueberry with a hint of mint. So really a nice, pleasant taste for the palate.
What an
Yeah.
infusion of flavors.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
All right, mine is huckleberry based, and then it has chunks of brownie in it, and then it has that little packet of hot fudge you can warm up, drizzle on top. It's called Happy Huckleberry, and if you've never had a huckleberry, it tastes in between a blackberry and a blueberry, I would say. Nice and refreshing, but you also get your chocolate fix.
And yeah, the side chocolate. is
drizzle.
just-
Yeah, I know. You really stepped it up.
Yeah, I know.
I love it. I love a hot fudge.
Yeah. Mm. Well, good to know.
I
think we actually, I think we would make good ice cream designers,
Oh,
for
I
lack of a
think
better
so
term.
too. For sure.
So,
Good job, everybody.
Haagen-Dazs or Ben & Jerry's, if you're listening.
Yes. And they
We're
were all so
here.
different. I
I
like that all
know,
of ours
I
were
know.
so
Very
and
different,
unique.
very different for all seasons of the year. All right, 8:52 right here on WCNC Plus, and one of the busiest travel weeks of the summer is underway. Weather delays and cancellations could threaten the holiday fun for a lot of folks. One airport where system malfunctions caused a major travel meltdown a few weeks ago is now ready for the holiday rush.
Airline operations teams warned this could happen. Ground stops and big delays Monday at New York's Big Three, LaGuardia, JFK, and Newark. On one of the busiest travel weeks of the summer, passengers at Newark delayed for hours. Alexandra Paz's Spirit Airlines flight home to Orlando canceled.
It was delayed like 3 times.
And now it's just not happening. Frustrating?
Yes, very, because we were looking for other flights, but there's nothing out until July 2nd.
Aircraft 2025 and aircraft 13. Just a plan B.
Inside United's operations center at Newark, they juggle planes, crews, catering, luggage, fueling,
Yeah, we're gonna need extra gas.
misconnected passengers, and mechanical issues.
No. You're gonna take the wing.
United has 74 gates here, the most of any airline. This time of year, they're not just watching the runways and the ramps, they're also watching the weather out of the west. Severe thunderstorms, which can ruin best-laid plans.
What about ground stop to the south? What do you think?
But this summer, Newark, one of the nation's busiest airports, has become a surprise turnaround story. Just 2 months ago, Newark was struggling with hours-long delays, air traffic control staffing shortages at Philly Radar Control, failing radios and radars, and a critical runway closed for repairs. Fast forward to today, the runway is open, the FAA is upgrading ATC equipment and adding staff, and United says its Newark hub is now the most on-time airport in New York. Does it feel like this airport is back again, that Newark is back and operating at full throttle?
It does, Tom, and really that's a testimony to the collaboration between United Airlines, the Port Authority of New York, and the FAA to really build us back up to our 380 operations per day.
380 takeoffs, roughly the same number of arrivals, with one eye always on the weather.
And if a thunderstorm hits, just like when you have the kids playing Little League, we have to take everybody off the ramp. We got to keep them safe. So everything comes to a halt.
NBC's Jay Gray with that report, where you keep it right here on WCNC Plus. We are going to take a quick break, but we're going to be back at the top of the hour. You see our own Jane Monreal there. She is in our live Impact News studio. She'll be streaming the day's top headlines, bringing them to you live. Of course, you can just leave us on all day to get the latest breaking news events as they happen from our area and across the nation.
Well, good Tuesday, everybody. Just letting you know, be weather alert a little bit later on. The Charlotte area realistically doesn't really have to worry about storms until after 4 or 5 o'clock. But heavy rain, gusty winds could be possible as early as 2 o'clock for the mountains and the foothills. And then also some dangerous lightning as we have seen really over the last few days. And so we're weather alert by the back end of the day. 90 degrees today, 88 for tomorrow, lower 90s Thursday and Friday. And then we slowly warm up through the 90s to the mid 90s by Monday. But at least we have a nice little dry trend that starts on Thursday. Majestic, take it away.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Heading out the door for your commute. There's a quick check at some of those drive times. About 26 minutes if you're coming in from Belmont, just under 30 if you're starting your day there in Gastonia. Live look outside I-77 at Atondo. You can see traffic is flowing. It's going to move a little bit slower if you're heading towards the uptown area. Nothing we're not used to, though. I-77 is slow as well. We don't have any major accidents out there, just people all heading in the same direction. There is a crash right now on 12th Street and Davidson Street, so take it easy and have a great Tuesday.